All right, so we're live. We're gonna do some limited liability companies here with David Roberts. David Roberts is one of the business tutors here at the Student Hub. He does Econ, he does POA, POB, MOB. So we are privileged to have him here this afternoon, spending some of his time with us. Because I can't teach no business thing here. This is a strictly science person in dealing with. So he's actually very excellent in this field, and he had a license to teach you all this. So, David, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Springer. All right. So today we are going to talk about limited liability companies. All right. What I'll do, I'll just go straight into the question because it's separated into sections. There's section A, B, C. Section A is theory questions. So we'll be able to discuss a little bit more about limited liability companies and flesh it out. And part B, we go into the into the general journal entries for the limited liability companies, right? So that'll be question B. And then for question C, we are going to look at the appropriation account, right? So without further ado, let's get into the class today. So we're looking at question 5A. Explain. So wait, you all ready? Why isn't the chat once you're ready? All right, so going good. Are you all hearing me? No.
Yo. So I just jumping back in to make sure I see in the chat because I seen a lot of people saying why and thing in response.
I'm not seeing anything on my side here on my screen.
Just see if you can find the comment section. And so the manufacturing account be counted as a limited liability company.
No, it's not.
Is this video going to be saved? Yes, the video is going to be saved. Wow, this camera is doing it. This camera is levels. The house is good as well. Like it's seeing all untidy bed and everything. We always start in the POA just now. Let's just make sure so you can see the comments. When you're doing POB, it's coming. They say yes, they're hearing you, they're seeing you, everything. It's just for you to see the comments.
Okay. All right, yes. Let me just look.
So you can see the comments right there. You're supposed to see it right there on StreamYard.
Right. Yes, I've seen it. I'm seeing the comments.
Right. So, and you can always, I believe, click on the comment to highlight it maybe.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
So, I out. Your presentation slipped away there.
It is up on my screen.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so somebody asked me a miracle.
So how can I get a 1 in POA if I never went in class? I don't know, and I don't know what credit and debit is. Wow. Wow. Okay. Wow. I'll still give advice before I start, if anything. Like one of the foundations of any subject is you have to understand the first principles. So just the same thing you say, they don't know, you have to know. You must know what debit and credit is, learn what assets, liability, and capital is, start off there. From there, you must go into start doing questions as early as possible, doing past paper questions. Now, what we're going to have, look at the formats of the different areas, of the different topics within the questions, learn the formats, try and understand them, and just be past papers like if they do you something. So that is the best advice I can give.
Listen. So I know this.
All right, Mr. Springer, thank you very much for the introduction.
Yeah.
So, good day, everyone. Welcome to our class where we're going to look at limited liability companies. What I love about this question is that this question is going to start off with, we have part A, where we are going to talk about the theory questions within limited liability company. So within that, we have this question trying to understand what a limited liability company is. After that, we're going into question part B, where we're going to do the general journal entries. And even there, we are going to have a better understanding. And finally, we'll end off with the appropriation account for the limited liability company, which is a very important thing. I'm going to try to break it down as simply as possible so you can understand what's going on, because I believe knowledge you could remember. If you understand, you'll be able to apply it, well, even like deeper memory, right? So Wise, as Mr. Springer said, Wise in the chat once you're ready, and let's get into it. Right, so I've seen everyone. Mr. Maths class, right? I see you Wise. All right, boom. So we are starting, right? So question 5A. Explain in one sentence the meaning. Yeah, I'll find it. I hope you all still seeing me and everything. Nice. Right? So explain in one sentence the meaning of each of the following statements. So we have one, the owner of a corporation benefits from limited liability. What does that mean? When you said the owner benefits from limited liability, what is that? Right now, I am unable to see the comments. Again, a little fight here, people. I don't know if you all hearing me still. Okay, right. So I see the comments here. This means that their personal assets cannot be used to repay debts. That is correct. They can only lose what's invested. That's correct. That's correct. So that is one of the beautiful characteristics of a limited liability company, that an individual could lose only what is invested into the business. Are you all hearing me, right? Good. So they can only lose what's invested in the business. So let's go and answer this question here. So limited liability. I want to share my screen again. I'm going to share my screen. Right now we can fight, but we will not let whatever fighting us down win. Right, we're going to have excellent class. I'll tell you that. See the screen going. All right, I'm pulling back up the screen now. I'm pulling it back up. So I see in Sir and the question too.
Oh, okay, come up. As long as I say I'm seeing this screen.
All right, we back up again, right? Yeah. My sister, hey, my apologies for this right now, but while we're fighting us, we're gonna fight against it because we have to get out this question.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I think whenever you interact with your screen or something, the share popping up.
I think so.
Yeah, so that's what showing it.
All right. Okay. All right.
Man asking dangerous questions here. Like,
I see that.
That
just
did you do it yourself? Can you answer that?
So yes, continue the question here. We can answer certain questions after. So we started off with the limited liability company. Pull this down. Right. Is when the owner are only liable to lose money that is invested into the business. So they cannot lose any personal assets, which is a beautiful thing as an investor, right? And the opposite is, of course, unlimited liability, where you could lose your personal assets if the business. So can you repeat? All right, so I started from the top, right? So let's look at the question because of the technical difficulties. So the question is, one, in one sentence, you have to explain one. The owner of a corporation benefits from a limited liability. What is limited liability? And that is where the owners are only liable to lose money that has been invested into the business. That's what limited liability means. And that now is in contrast. I'm going to write what unlimited liability is, right? So the opposite is unlimited liability, where an investor can lose personal assets as well as money, or assets as well as assets invested in the business. So this is in understanding. Sometimes as you understand what the opposite means, you'll be able to understand what the actual word is. So a limited liability is the opposite to unlimited liability, right? And so therefore in unlimited, you can lose personal assets as well, which is different from limited liability, where you can only lose money invested in the business. Everyone, wise once we understand, and we're going forward. Ooh, yeah, that binomial expression saying that will come in accounting. So we will stick with accounting questions and answers. All right, great. So that's the difference between limited liability and unlimited liability. All right. So let's go on to part 2. Great, I've seen all the wise. So you have Faris London, a shareholder, wants to know what the board of directors of Aries Limited does. So in a limited liability company, what is the role? What is the function of the board of directors? If the screen is not showing properly, that is probably, you have to look, click into the settings in YouTube and fix the quality of your video, because right now here, crystal clear, it's up in your face. It's not showing great, it is fuzzy. You will need to up on my side or on their side, right? Yes. What paper is this? This is May, June 2012. So as the functioning board of directors, right, to monitor and manage the affairs of the business. That is correct. So the limited liability company is owned by shareholders, but the shareholders, they give the board of Yes. Right now, I believe my screen fell off again. All right, so we've seen it back. Nice. So the board of directors, their job is to oversee the run of the company on the shareholders' behalf. So that is their role. Nice. So now we're going into the last theory question. And it says here, the registrar of companies has received the documents required to start up the new corporation. What are these documents? There are 2 main documents that are needed for the registrar of companies to needed for the startup of a new corporation. And what these 2 are? To answer Sharice, yes, that's correct. Right, so he wants to know what the board of directors does, and all they do, they run the affairs of the business. They are in charge of making sure that the business is run and operated efficiently so that the shareholders will be able to make profits. We have dinner there. The documents are requested are the articles of association and the memorandum of association. Correct, correct. Woo, we just have geniuses out there. So let's get this. So the registrar, and you all are all correct. I don't know if you all see the screen still. Today fighting us, wild boy. Right, so has received the of association and memorandum of association. I could actually just put this on the next line. That's what that is there for. Right, so these are the two documents that will that are needed for the registration of a business. Right? So now that we have that out of the way, question A, let's get into question 5, part B. Screen going off. All right, I'm trying to bring it back up now.
Yeah, the screen is there. The screen is there.
The screen here?
Yeah, that was from before we was talking about.
Okay. Right now. Okay. So, right, we're going on to part B now. Part B. Right? And why is the chat once we understand part A before we go on to part B? All right, so seeing the Y's. We've seen Y's. Okay, great. So we're going on into part B, right? And it goes like this. So we have Aries Limited has authorized share capital of 200,000 $1 ordinary shares and 100,000 $1 8% preference shares. Right? On the 1st of April 2011, the following balances were listed in its books. So we have, as at April the 1st, 2011, they would have issued 100 and it was technical difficulties giving us 5 point.
Again, problem for the screen to read.
Yeah, again, real problems with the screen itself. So my screen it keeps saying reconnecting, and then after it dropping, it coming back, it dropping.
Was that between the iPad and the computer?
Yeah, that's correct. The connection between the iPad and the computer.
I can listen to the student hubs here. Unshare it and reshare it again.
That is on the iPad?
Yeah. Everything. The screen, everything. The glossary, close glossary, everything.
Okay.
The next part is what? A whole spreadsheet thing?
Yeah, it's mostly on the Excel. But still, like, I like to draw up on the glossary on the question paper now.
Got it.
But it's mostly
I'll take our water break there. So you see, she understand 80%.
We've seen everything. How things looking?
Yeah, we've seen everything, but it doesn't get any those and I think you gotta skip out on those for now.
So I'll pull up the past paper on the from I have it saved there. You can scratch on the history. June 2012.
All in this chat, all you volunteer to do POA, all you went into this voluntarily, or it was a choice by your parents or your teachers. Like somebody, all you wake up and say, I'm going to do POA in form 3. You choose to do POA, but you was like, yes, POA.
Let me see your POA. It was.
I love.
Actually, I had to choose between a science. What science is physics and POA? And I was like, POA is zero. POA is zero.
That's the science. Well, I know Isabella genuinely wanted to do it. Deja, yes. Ella, yes. Adrian, my choice. Both choice by teacher says that. In form 2, not in form 2, you start POA. It's mandatory in my stream, so this is by force, hopefully by force and choice too. Yeah.
I'll teach with all the iPad.
Tell me when you're ready.
Yeah, because it's screen sharing, so you see how things go from here.
This man said POA is quite useless in the world of work. I can tell.
What?
That is untrue. That is untrue, and as a science person, so I had a reason to like. But yeah, as a business, it's nearly like on something, bro. He's trying not to go broke and thing. Form 3 was kind of rough. So he has his own YouTube channel. Who knows? Maybe. Maybe it's coming.
Maybe it's there.
Ready?
Yeah, I'm back and ready. Yeah, it's time I need to go.
Yeah, go through.
Okay, great. So, everyone, we are going to do part B now of the question, which is the general journal entries, right? But before I start, I see POA, it's fun when you understand that's correct. I like it a lot. Right. Now, failure, I always want to do it in school, but my mom, boom. Okay, great. So, we are continuing here. Thank you very much to the Harvest Good with Work and Work Ethic. Right. So we're back now. So let's read the question, and then after we will pull out the necessary information to answer the question, right? So Aries Limited has an authorized share capital of $200,000 $1 ordinary shares and $100,000 $1 8% preference shares. On the 1st of April 2011, the following balances were listed in the books. So we have 165,000 ordinary shares at $1 each. That add up to, they would have issued $165,000 in ordinary shares. Then we have 83,000 8% preference shares at $1 each, so that's $83,000 worth in preference shares, and 10% debentures at $41,000. On April 1st, 2011, Aries Limited, they issued the remaining ordinary and preference shares for cash and buys back $21,000 in debentures with the cash received. Okay, so with this, we're going to need to draft the general journal entries to record the first issue of the remaining ordinary shares at $1.50. So you see there's a difference between the issuing shares, $1.50, and the $1 that was authorized by. And what does that mean? Well, stick in the video and we'll be able to understand, right? So make sure you listen. Part 2. And with any question, we must issue the remaining preference shares at $1 each. And finally, we need to show the reduction in the debentures. So first and foremost, in order to answer this question, we must issue the remaining ordinary shares. We must first understand what is ordinary shares and what are preference shares. So let's just say for within the accounting purposes for documentation, just know that ordinary shares are shares that when you buy ordinary shares, you become a part owner of the business. That is when you buy ordinary shares, and with preference shares, when you buy those shares, that as well you become part owner. But for that, you will have to trying to find you a yeah. But like preference shares, they get the dividends first, and ordinary shares get the dividends after. But you just have to make the distinction between both of them for the accounting purposes, right? So let's just start off with the ordinary shares and the difference between ordinary shares authorized and ordinary shares issued. Authorized means this is how many shares the company is willing to give out, right? So they are willing to distribute 200,000 shares. That's what authorization means. However, as at the 1st of April, they would have issued 165. So this is how much they actually issued, 165 shares. And so therefore, how many ordinary shares are remaining? That is the first question we have to find out. How many ordinary shares are remaining to be issued? If we could issue 200,000 and issued 165. $35,000, that's correct, right? And what does that mean? We have 35,000 that could be issued. So let's write that out and let's see if we can understand that a little better. So we have the shares issued as at the 1st of April 2011, which is the remaining, which is the rapid and show, which is the remaining balance of share capital and debentures. So first we have the remaining ordinary shares. So 200,000 authorized shares. And remember, what are authorized shares? Shares, well, I can't write it on the iPad now, but just write in the notes. These are shares that could be distributed by the company. First and foremost, does everyone understand what shares are? Just put a Y once we understand. I just want to know that is a deep question, but right, so why okay, so right, so I don't need to go into what a share is. A share basically is used to represent one person saying that they don't know. If I could pull up the iPad, we could just do because of the ends, I've seen a good amount of ends. So I just want to see if I could go into those three. We have a short discussion with an illustration on what a share is, and then after we go forward. Please work for me. Wait. All right. And then after, my pen now has given up on me.
You know, you can use your finger, right?
Huh?
You can use your finger.
I can use my finger.
Right? I mean, I teach like a whole year using only my finger.
Serious?
Yeah, not a pen or anything. It's back in the hard times.
I understand. All right. So let's see how we
Wow,
can get it.
yeah, right. They don't give me competition with that finger, baby.
Yeah, boy. Fighting a while. You spend work. I'm looking for my charger for the pencil since yesterday, and it just not coming to me.
This one right there. This look like how my son is right now, and it's fine. Yeah, well, see what you can do.
All right. I tried. All right, so we have shares, and there are two types of shares, or two ways we could have the shares, right? So we have authorized shares and issued shares. But let's go into example of shares, right? So shares example. So we have, picture this. We have 1, 2, 3 circles, and each circle is a share. right? You all work with my hair, work with your handwriting. And each circle represents a share in a company. What's the name of the company? We will call it, that is my own company. I'm making up my own company. David Penmanship Wow Limited, right? So I have my penmanship business, and each of these circles represents a share. And let's say that these shares, let's draw one circle, two circle, and we have three circles. And each share is valued at, let's say, it's 100,000. So 100,000 shares are 100,000. Each share is valued at. And so we have all three being authorized. And so therefore, if all three dots are being authorized, how much is the how much will be the authorization value? How much could be authorized? It's 300,000, right? So correct. So authorized, if all three could be authorized, you have 300,000 being authorized. And that's what a share is. A share is an intangible asset which shows that you have ownership of value in a business. So these three dots represents ownership of value in a business, and you attach a value to it. But now, if we say that we are to issue, if they issued two shares, so this means now when they issue the shares, this is when they actually make money, or this is how they would raise capital in the business. So if they issued two of the shares, how much money would that be? Issued. So let's say we issued these two here. Right? So that means correct. We would have issued 200,000 worth in shares. And so therefore, that's what, just think of shares there. Think of it like, think of them as the purple dots that you have, and each one has a value. And when we are authorizing shares, that means that this is how much the business would be able to make money from, the potential of how much capital they can raise with the authorization. And when they issue, this is when they actually raise capital, when they issue the shares, so they give it out. So going back to the question now. All right, so we have 200,000 $1 shares that could be issued, and we have 165 actually issued, right, within this question. So shares are assets, shares capital. Share is capital. They are intangible assets that represent how much value shareholders have of the business. So in this business, right now, as at the 1st of April, before any other shares are issued, they have 165 in ordinary shares, $83,000 in preference shares. So therefore, the value of the business with regards to shares, kind of add this up quick, that is 248,000 so far. So it's kind of like is the value of the business. So we're going back. So we have 200,000 being authorized, and we have 165,000 being issued. And so therefore, how much do we have remaining to be issued? And the difference is my answers. You are here. Right, 35,000, right? Correct. So you have 35,000 shares remaining. I'm going to wrap this so you can see the answer. Right? Great. So you just give me the number of shares. Now we're going back to the question. So as at April 31st, they would have had 100,000 preference shares that would have been authorized, but they only issued 83,000 preference shares. So how many preference shares do we have remaining, or how many could still be issued? The lecture's here. Okay, I'll take it out when I go back. Thank you very much, Luana. You're the bomb. So we have 100. So for preference shares, we have 100,000 authorized preference shares, and we have 83,000 issued shares. And so therefore we have 17,000 shares remaining. That's correct. And so you say I have an extra 0 ways. That is more shares. So far, I hope that you all understand the calculation so far. So far, this is the number here. Very important. Kaboom for our answer, 17,000, and to splash 35,000 with regards to the shares so far, right? Now, when drafting up the shares in a general journal, right, what we need to do is we need to make a distinction between shares at par value and shares at share premium. So we're gonna look at it now, where the ordinary, so we look at the ordinary shares, right? So far we know that we have 35,000 ordinary shares remaining. Great, wise, great. And we have, right, so it's 35,000, and they were issued at $1.50. However, the authorization was at $1. So let's talk a little bit about that, where some call par value. I really need to charge this. People just know that if anybody wants, you could just, I should have buy extra charger for this because I was looking for it wholly today and I couldn't find it. So here I am writing with my finger, and this is horrible. It's something called share premium. So yes, there is a premium. So we have par value is the value I'm trying to pull up this wrist guard. Nice. Value of shares at authorization. And then the share premium is the difference, right? So you're seeing it there is the difference between the value of shares up. I have to put difference between. So difference between, wow. I'll do it like a straight equation. So premium is we have authorized share price, and that'll be minus from the price when it was issued. So P price when shares issued minus the authorized price. So we're looking at this here. That's what we're looking for, right? So let's go back to the question and let's look for it. So we're seeing that in the question here, we would have authorized the ordinary shares at $1 per share. However, they are issued at $1.50. So therefore, what is the share premium? And I see you all would have mashed it up here. I see for the, so it would be the rise. Well, it's not share premium, it would be the rise in the price. So it was $1 and after now it's $1.50. So that means it would be 50 cents per share. Well, you have to find the share premium. You have to find the share premium because when we are documenting the shares in the general journal, you make a difference between how much the shares, you make a distinction between the price of the shares when they were authorized and the price that they were issued at. And if there's a difference, you have something called share premium. So let's do it. The first question. So we have 35 ordinary shares remaining. And so therefore, when we are entering in the general journal, and just know whenever entering general journal, okay, now understanding. Okay, so let's wheel and come again. All right. So we're looking for something called the par value of the shares and the share premium, right? Par value is based on the number of shares that are okay. So par value is based on the number of shares that are issued. What was the price that it was at the point of authorization? So we have the first note. We have the draft of the general journal entries to record. So the issue of the remaining shares, issue of the remaining ordinary shares is at $1.50. So the par value for that would be at $1. They issued the remaining 35,000 shares. So we have, all right, so it's 35,000 shares at $1. And we would credit that at 35,000. We stick with the ordinary shares. But however, so even though the ordinary shares, it was authorized at $1, and that's how you input it with regards to the par value, we need to get what the share premium is, which is the difference between how much it was authorized at and how much it is issued. So if it's issued at $1.50, therefore the share premium will be the 50 cents multiplied by the $35,000. $35,000 shares, sorry. So 50 cents multiplied by 35,000 shares. All right, so that will equal to 17,500. So you're going to enter. All right, so understood. I'm glad to see that. That's also our next question. I think I'm going to answer it. So for share premium, we're going to enter is 35,000 shares, and we're going to multiply that by 50 cents. Right? If you blink, you get the click, you know. If you stick, you get the click. And this one here, if you blink, you get the click. Oh my goodness. So that's 17,500. Right? So that is the share premium. And why is once you understand the difference between the par value and the share premium, and why we enter at the par value, we enter the 35,000, and the difference between the authorized and the price when the ordinary stock was authorized and the price when it was issued. That is why we have a share premium. And yeah, so we have 35,000 and 17,500 entered so far. Okay, great. So now we are going to do the same thing for the preference shares, right? So this is our next form of ownership in the business, right? Right, great. And we have to see, does it have a share premium? So the preference shares, they would have been authorized at $1 per share. However, these preference shares are issued at $1 per share. Question, will the preference shares have a share premium? Why, if yes, and if no? And why does it not have a share premium? There's no share premium, so that's correct. And why are we seeing that it don't have a share premium? Because the price that it is issued at is the same price that the preference shares was authorized at. And so therefore, we're just going to have a par value entry of, and we'll do the cash part after. So we'll do that after, and I'll explain that just now. Because at the same price, it's still at par value. So that par value is, right? So par value is the price that the shares was authorized at. So I keep saying the words over. So remember, words to remember, authorized, issued, that's together. And after we have par value and share premium. Authorized is with share is with par value, authorized is with par value, and we have the when issued, the difference between the issued and authorized is share premium, right? Great. Over talk about that. If anybody do understand that, I am ready to fight. So now we have so for the preference shares, remember we would have calculated that we have 17,000 shares remaining. And these were sold, were issued to 17,000 shares at $1 per share. And so therefore, that is 17,000. Right? Going back to the question. So far, did we show that the issue of the remaining ordinary stocks at $1.50? Yes, we did, because we showed the par value and the share premium. And so far, we could take this off. Take this off, right? So far, we get that. In the general journal, the issue of remaining share preference shares at $1 each. We have done that so far. And finally, so is not bank needed to be debited? Yes. Yes, we're going to debit the bank. And we're going to do it together. And finally, we need to show a reduction in the debentures. But before we go into that, let us look at this question here. So so far we have credited the ordinary shares. We have credited the ordinary shares at par value, 35,000. Preference shares at par value, 17,000. Share premium, 17,500. So what you need to do now, if there is a credit entry, we must always have a debit entry, right? And when entering the shares, you can just add up all the credit entries for the shares, and that will be the debit entry of cash. And where do we get that information? It comes from here. It says issue the remaining preference, the remaining ordinary and preference shares for cash. For cash. And then after they buy back the 21,000 debentures, but let's go and enter the cash. So for the cash now, all that will be is a summation of these three entries here. So that is $69,500. $69,500 is our cash entry. What you could do is like you could put cash, ordinary shares, then your debit cash, you put the ordinary shares, so 35,000, 35,000. You can debit cash here again, 17,000, 17,000. You can debit cash here, 17,500, 7,500. That's a lot. So what I did is just add up all and just put it as a cash. Do you all understand why the chat wants you to understand why we put cash debited 69,500 ends if we don't? Mr. Right, I've seen all the Y's. Seen all the Y's, great. So now we're going back. And we're looking at the last part now. As in, we're looking for something called the reduction in debentures. But again, now before we go into reduction in debentures, what is debentures? A debenture is a long-term loan. So we're looking at debentures now. Right? So what is a debenture? Is a long-term loan, right? That is issued to the business, and so therefore that will contribute towards investment in the business. So two ways that two main ways. It's three, but two ways that they can raise capital or raise money to invest. They can either do it through shares. When they issue the shares, they raise money, or we have the debentures where they take a long-term loan. Is it like a mortgage? Yes, we could say it's like a mortgage, right? Both a mortgage and the debentures are long-term loan. And so you think about a loan, when you get the loan, right? How will it be accounted for? Also, the debenture interest must be paid before any dividend. That's correct. You have to pay that one time. So, but we're going back to the debentures. So when we are taking a loan, right, it will either be, let's say, either be cash or bank. This will be debited. And then after the debenture, this will be credited, right? And why is that? Just remember, we know that once an asset increase is a debit, and once a liability increase, it is a credit, right? So this is how we would enter when we get debentures, when we make a loan. However, for this question, let's look at the question at hand. They said here, right, that the business buys back $21,000 in debentures with the cash received. And so therefore, what it did, when they took the loan, they would have debited cash and credited debenture. But now they are sending back some of the loan. So they're sending back some of the money. So they send back $21,000 in debentures. And so therefore, if when they receive the money, they would have debited cash and credited debentures, what will they do when they return in it? And I see Michelle have it here. They would debit debentures and credit cash. They do the nice switcheroo because it's the opposite. Because when they buy back the cash, cash is going out, and so therefore that will be credited. And when they and they will have less debentures owed, and so therefore that will be a debit. So in the question here, we will debit debentures and we will credit cash of $21,000. So 21,000 here and 21,000 here. I just find that close to 21 Savage. So I just take a note of that. And this is, oh my gosh, I have it in the wrong lines. And let's just make that little note there. Now this is a liability decrease. And so therefore that's why it is debited. And we have an asset decrease. And that's why it is credited. You all understand up in the chat? Come, many Y's hit many N. What's the code? What's going on? Right, so understood. Okay, great. All right, great. So we just now did the general journal entries, right? And within this, I hope that we have a better understanding of what a share is. And we have types of shares. Of course, we have the ordinary shares. We have the preference shares. Those are the two types of shares. We talked about the debentures, and we talked about it being a loan, and how does that work, and how we are entering it in a general journal. When it comes to the questions, by and large, you get the questions like this. The only difference, let's spell preference correct. That'd be nice. Excellent. Preference. Yes. The only difference is that in the in an exam, they might ask you to narrate. Like in this question, they specifically said narrations not required. However, in many questions, you will have to actually narrate. So you'll have to say that this is shares issued at par value $1 per share, and then after you have share premium at 50 cents per share, and you have to say that this will be a decrease in the debenture. So you have to like actually type out a narration, but in this one we didn't have to, right? So let's move on. Yes, we are going right into the appropriation account. This is the fun part. This is it. This is what we live for. We live for this in the limited liability questions. So let's go. Right? Wise, once you're ready to tackle this appropriation account, we gotta mash up this in. Put Wise on fire. Put Wise on fire emojis. All right, yeah. So let's mash up this one. So it says that other balances found on the books. Right. So let me just give right now. I started it, but I'm going to read it out, and then after you have a little discussion in your appropriation account, and let's that's it. We can file on the place. Come on, kaboom, kaboom. So you have other balances found on the books include. So you have profit and loss account before interest and debentures. So that's 90,000. That's good. Retained earnings 40,100. That is a good thing to have. We have general reserve of 51,500. So what this is basically money that the business have in different forms. So they have money in the form of profit and loss. They have money in something called retained earnings. So this is profits and loss before interest for this period, 90,000. They have retained earnings. So that's money from last year. Come forward. That's retained earnings. And then we have general reserve. We're going to that just now. Actually, going to now. General reserve is reserves are money that they would put aside for different reasons. So general reserve is just money put aside for general purposes. So that is why they have money in those different forms from before. Now, on the 31st of May 2011, the directors agreed to the following. So they agreed to do certain stuff. So first they agreed to pay the interest on the remaining debentures. Okay, we'll conduct that scene. They do something called transfer 51,500 to general reserves. We'll conduct that scene just now. Provide for the dividends to all shareholders of preference shares and provide for dividends of 12% to all shareholders of ordinary shares. And within this, we have to do this, we have to prepare the appropriation account for Aries Limited for the year the 31st of May 2011. Okay. So net profit, boom, no, we can't do that just so. Luana, so this is it here. So first, let's look at the format of the appropriation account. And let's understand how appropriation account works, right? So first, what we have to do, you must always put the name of the business. Always, always. After that, you must put appropriation account for the year ended the December 31st, 2011. There's something to note, like you're seeing here that I said the appropriation account is limited for the year ended 2011. In every single question, whether it's appropriation account, current account, income statement, statement of financial position, they will give you the information that you must put as the heading. And put it out like this. That is easy marks that you could either gain or you could lose. Is this a trial balance? No. It's opposite from trial balance. What this is how the business does something called appropriate or distribute funds. And look at the concept here. You start off with the profits that are made for the year. So hey, anybody who's kind of slacking off, dozing off, tune in now. Right now I'm going to explain appropriation account. Right? Stick with me here. So we are starting off with the profits for the year before interest. So that would be some amount, right? If there's any interest on say interest on a loan, and usually that would be the debentures, but it's a on a loan, and let's say usually it is the debentures, you will minus that, and after this is profits for the year after interest. And this profit amount is taken from the income statement. So now, after you have your profit, right? So let's say we have, in this example, we're just going to do a random one together. So let's say the business made $300,000, and they took a loan. The interest on the loan is $20,000, and so therefore they are left with $280,000. The thing is, the profits. The profits that after the interest, you have $280,000. They're going to do something called appropriate from that, or what we call distribute. So you don't call it distribute, but think of it like that. So you're going to distribute funds to different places. And where do we distribute it to? We distribute it to the different reserves. So in this question, we have a general reserve. And once you transfer money from the profits and you put it into reserve, so you put it into storage, you must take it out. So let's say, for example, we must transfer $50,000 from $50,000. The board of directors, remember, from part 2 of the part A, part 2 in part A, they say was the role of the board of directors to run the business. So the board of directors say we need to transfer $50,000 to the general reserve. That $50,000 will be taken out from where? It will be taken out from the $280,000. I'm not a high school. I'm not even taking POA, but something I said, come on, this makes sense. You can apply this to life too, right? This could actually help with budgeting, because you have $280,000 in profits and you have to distribute your money, and then you have to know, okay, how much money do I really have? Then let's say, right, so far we transferred $50,000 to the general reserves, right? Wise once we understanding so far about how we start off with a certain amount of profit, and what appropriation is distributing the funds. So we're going to minus from the from the profits as we appropriate, because we are distributing it to different places. So distributing it to general reserves. We're going to put some into, all right, so right, great. Right, so right now we have 50,000 going to our general reserves. And then the board of directors, they decide here this, we want to pay something called dividends. What dividends is, let's just talk about that. That is the profits, or this is the profits made by shareholders, but it is distributed by the board of directors. I'm gonna have to minus, I'm gonna have to take away this. So this is just for any notes. So you don't do add retained earnings to the, yeah, we're gonna do that. Guys, we'll look at the retained earnings at the end, what you can add, we'll add at the end. You can either add it higher up or lower down, right? You can add the retained earnings here, but I'm doing it at the end here, okay? So we have the proposed dividends, and this is just a kind of note for you all, what proposed dividends, what are dividends is. So this is profits made by the shareholders and is distributed under the directions of the board of directors. And let's say, for example, the board of directors would have decided that they would want to distribute 5% of shares, and it reached to, let's say it's 40,000. So you have 40,000 ordinary shares distributed. You have preference shares, 50,000 being distributed, right? And then after, what we need to do is to add up these. So it's 550, 51. So this will be $140,000 that is going to be minus from our profits, because they are appropriated to the general reserves, the proposed dividends. Because question, right? Question, where would a business get its dividends from? So remember, dividends is paid to the shareholders. Where would they get that money from? Where does it come from? Does it come from the sky? Do they thief it? Do they steal it from an individual? They steal it from a next business, and then after they pay the shareholders because they would have robbed a next business. And in regards to Evan's question, yes, there are different formats. Right? So right now, this is the format I'm using for the appropriation account. But when appropriating, where's the dividends paid from? And it is paid from the profits. It's paid from profits of the business. So once the business does well, right, they'll be able to pay dividends. When you're paying dividends, so when the board of directors says, here this, we are going to pay 5% of our ordinary shares and dividends to our shareholders, and let's say the preference shares are 8% preference shares, where is that money coming from? It will come from the profits, right? It will come from the profits. That's correct. So that's why, like, this is the profits here, 280, and we have the reserves as being minus from the profits. The reserves is being minus from the profits, and our dividends must be minus from the profits, because that is where the money is coming from. And that's how we got this 140,000 here so far, right? Now, after we do the appropriations, what we need to do as well is we need to do something called add the retained earnings brought forward. This is from previous years, right? And here what I'm gonna do, I just gonna get the answer. So this will be like, this will equal to 140 here, and let's say that the retained earnings from years before is 100,000, and so therefore this will be added though. This will be added. It says 150,000. So therefore we have it at 290. What does this mean? Let's explain this one. This is one more explanation, and we're going straight into answering the question, and everyone will be well equipped to answer the question, right? So what is this? What this is, this 150,000 in retained earnings from before, this is profits that were remaining. Retained earnings is profits remaining after appropriations. So we made 240, we distributed 140, we are left with 140 for this year. After, what we need to do, we need to add retained earnings from previous years. So we have 150 from years before. So in total, our retained earnings going forward, so retained earnings brought forward from previous years is 150,000. So retained earnings carry forward to the next year, which includes money from this period, left over from this period, as well as money from periods before 150, getting 290,000. Wise ones we understand. Zidane, is 60 a guaranteed to? I wouldn't say guaranteed to, but there's a high likelihood you'll be able to get a 2 with that. I believe so, but don't say like, yeah, for sure, for sure. Would it be debited? No. This would, remember, if it's a T account, this would be credited because this would be an increase in capital. This is capital being increased in the business, and so therefore this would be a credit, not a debit. And that's when we talk about Michelle. And let's just say, Michelle says aim for distinctions, not twos. And I just copy and paste that to everyone. Right now we aiming for distinctions. That is why you all are here. I'm proud of you all for being here. Proud of everybody doing all the past papers. But yeah, so far I get it wise. So everybody understand the retained earnings, right? So we just now had a beautiful small session, but let's actually go into answering this question now with the wisdom and understanding that we have. So the first thing, when we are doing the appropriation account, what do we need to do? What do we need to find in the appropriation account? Because we can take out money when we are appropriating, but where are we taking all the money from? We are taking it out from where? I feel like if my thing lagging slight, from the profits, that's correct. Right? So we have profit and loss account before interest on the debentures. We have 90,000. So you're gonna enter the 90,000 here. Right? And just remember the heading. We have the heading all nice. Let me as well, before I forget, this needs to have what we call our money value, our dollar signs to show money, 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 money. Right? So we have 90,000. Number luck, please luck. 90. Thank you. So we have 90,000. And then in the question, they said that we pay interest due for the remaining debentures. Okay, so this is a little math here that we have to calculate, right? So we have, at first we would have had the, so that's, I'm gonna highlight what we're doing now. So this is what we're doing, right? For anyone who pay interest on remaining debentures. So that's what we're focusing now. So you'll remember that with the debentures, right? At first we would have had 41,000 of the 10% debentures. However, we would have sent back, or we bought back. So that means we undid within the loan, we undid $21,000 in debentures. So question, the remaining debentures is equal to how much? That's correct. So we have the 41, let's say the original debentures minus bought back debentures. So this would be equal to the 41,000 that we would have had originally as the debenture for the loan, and we minus our 21,000 that was sent back. So we have 20,000 debentures remaining. So now in order to find the interest on the debentures is the debentures and preference shares, they always have the percentage for the loans because it's fixed, right? I think a student would have said that earlier. So preference shares and debentures, their interest, well, the interest for the debentures and the dividends for the preference shares are fixed. Okay? And so therefore, in order to find the interest on the debentures, we need to take the same 20,000 that we just found, and we need to find 10% of it. That's correct. So the interest will be the interest. So to find the interest on the debentures will be the interest rate multiplied by the debentures remaining. So this will equal to 10%, and this 10% is multiplied by, we have 20,000 debentures remaining, 20,000. So the interest, right, is 2,000. Great. So let's go and enter that. Let us minus our 2,000. Please do, excellent, leave it as a bracket. So we have $88,000. Right, that's correct. I see 2,000 here. So that's who doing this? We have Danish, Chantel, Mark, Fasha. So why not 2/12 for the time range? 2 to 12 for the time range. I don't understand the question 100% there. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I give him a little bit more than Michelle. 2/12, and I see anything for the time range. So far we would have entered the shares. Now we have with regards to we enter the interest, right? And we get the profits right now is 88,000. Now we need to less the appropriations. We need to less the appropriations, right? We need to make our minuses. So the first one we're going to do, we're going to look at them. So we have here, transfer $51,500 to general reserve, right? So why not April, May for the range? So this is April 1st, and after this is on May. So this is at the start of April, this is on May. And honestly, I still don't understand the question. But so we transferred 51,000 to our general reserve. If you want to put transfer to general reserve, to remember that it is the amount transferred that year and not general reserves from before. Because let's say from the note here, this is from before this year. This is from before. And this here is transferred. Why is once we understand the difference? Oh. Okay, I comment here just now. Michelle, and it is here. It says that is an excellent point of view, but it said to pay interest on the remaining debentures. And remaining debentures is a total 20,000. So yeah, I understand now, right? You want to pay debentures just for just for April and May. But what they want is that you pay the debentures for the entire year one time. So yes, the transactions is between April and May, but if we're paying the interest on the remaining debentures, we are paying interest one time. So we just pay them that $2,000 for the year one time, perhaps. That is the thing. Rock back. I have no more debenture interest to pay until next year. So I think that is the concept that we're coming with. Why is before and take kind of change, Dinesh? Why is the before and transfer the same kind of change? That's an excellent question, and yes, it could change. So that's why I made the distinction. So sometimes they say the general reserve. So this is from before. So this is, let's say right now this 2011. So this would be reserves from, let's say this would be reserves from 2010 plus reserves from 2009 plus reserves from 2008. So that's what this reserve is here. What we're doing now is that we are now transferring this year in 2011 this. So when in the appropriation account, it is only the general reserve transferred or any reserves transferred that is in the appropriation account. Why is in the chat if we understand that distinction between, let me say, total general reserve and the general reserve that will be entered in the appropriation account. So you're always looking for that word. You're looking for you look, all right, this is the keyword here. The keyword is transfer because that is this period. So think of the reserves as like backup. You have backup money. So hey, let's use some real money. Let's use some real money. Right now some singles here. So all right, this year we see in 5. Actually, let me use some better money because that looks horrible, guys. All right, so we have $31, right? We have $31, and let's just say we have $31 in profits, and we have this $3 from general reserves. So this is the profits I make this year. This is general reserves from last year, right? This amount of money is equivalent to this bar here. This is general reserves from years before. So this is what we had from before. However, this is what we're doing. So we have $31 and we want to transfer. Let's say we want to transfer $1 to general reserves. So before we had $3 in general reserves and we have $31 in profits. When we transfer to general reserve, we are taking $1 and putting it to general reserves. So now general reserve has 4 and our remaining earnings, our retained earnings, or how much money we have left with is 30. So that is what we're doing now. We are transferring money from profits into the general reserve. So we have some general reserve from before, but we want more money in our general reserve, and each year they keep adding. Sanitize. I'll actually do it. I will. I'll remember and get my hand sanitizer for it. All right, because there's no touch of money, and that money could be erroneous, and let's not play those games, guys. Right? Thank you very much. I take an advice for sure. Okay. Right. Money use, exactly. That's it, Mark. That's what the reserve is money that we're putting aside for later use. So we're taking it out. So it's like the retained earnings is money that we have, but when you put it in reserve, that is less likely for us to use from it. So more likely to use from retained earnings as opposed to the reserves. And let's say we have, yes, here we have general reserves, but you can have other reserves. But I said, like for cooperatives, they have something called usually the education reserve or the education fund. You put aside money for education. You put aside money, as we say, for general. So you're putting aside money for different purposes, right? All right, just saying that coronius is not a word from our dictionary, guys. Don't use it in your English essays. Please just use it in a normal conversation. Is it like a savings? That's correct. That is it. Reserves is like a savings. It's like money that you put there, you let it rock back, it chilling. chilling, killing, just, you know, being a villain. So we are back to the question, and we would have transferred 51,500 to our, what is still that? 51,500 to our general reserve, right? Great. So this is it here. Now, as well, we have the board of directors. They would decide to transfer a certain amount of dividends. So they will propose the preference dividends. This is fixed. This is already known. This is fixed. So we really need to fight up to know what the preference dividends is. Let's, even though that second one, let's do it one time. Because we know that so far, one thing I encourage my class is to tick off as you go about. Like you see with the notes and things. So like put a tick in your paper to show that, okay, I handled this here. We put in a tick because we transferred 51,500 to the general reserve. Now, we have provide for the dividends to all holders of preference shares. And the dividends for the preference shares is a 8% preference shares. And so therefore, we need to find 8% of our preference shares, right? So I'm going back down now. So you need to provide for the dividends to all preference shareholders, right? Okay, but look at this. What we would have calculated so far, remember when we calculated, we had, right, so everybody look at this here, right? Highlight. So the preference shares remaining, we would have had 100,000 authorized. We would have had 83,000 shares issued as at April the 1st. Why I comment to you, Kanish. We comment to that, I'll answer that just now. But we have 100,000 shares authorized. So this is how much they could sell. But as at April the 1st, they would have issued, not sell, they would have issued 83,000 shares. And so therefore, and after they would have issued the 17,000 as remaining, they would have issued that, right? Because that's what they did. They issued the remaining shares. And so therefore, with any question, issue remaining shares. When it said provide for the dividends to all shareholder, all holders of preference shares, what we need to do, we need to include the 83,000 that was issued before, and then after we add the 17,000 shares that are remaining, that would have been remaining, and then after that is the total amount of preference shares issued. I'm going to say it again. So we're looking at preference shares issued. So I'm going to make a little bit blue note here so that we can. So we're looking at preference shares issued. So you're going to look to find the total preference shares issued, right? And the total preference shares issued is we have 83,000 was issued. We have 83,000 shares issued as at April the 1st. So we have is equal to 83,000 shares issued at April 1st, 2020. And then after we have to add on the 17,000 that was issued. Right? So we have actually this would be as at. So as at April the 1st, we have 83,000 and we have 17,000 was issued, 70,000 shares issued at April 1st. So that's just the difference. So 83,000 was issued from before, and we have 17,000 is issued, and so therefore total preference shares issued is equal to 100,000 shares. Right, in total 80,000 don't give out. So why don't we only focus on the 17,000? Okay, excellent question, Dinesh. So look at this, right? The 83,000 as at April the 1st, 2011, we would have issued 83,000 shares already. So those are already issued. And then after we would have issued the remaining, so we issued 17,000 more. So when we are providing dividends to all shareholders, it cannot be only the ones that were issued at April the 1st. That is the 17,000. Let's go back. It cannot only be the 17,000 that was issued. Why? Because we already issued the 83,000 from before. They need to get shares as well. So, you understand? You have to get them shares too. You have to get them shares. You have to get them dividends. They need to be issued dividends as well. Dividends. So, it is the 83,000. The 83,000 that was issued from before. They need to get dividends. And the 17,000 that we just issued, they need to get dividends as well. And so therefore we have to give out $100,000 worth, 100,000 shares need to get dividends to them. So you have to include all. That's correct. That's correct. Because they were issued. So if it's issued, you have to pay dividends to them. If it's authorized only and not issued, it's no dividends. So, issued, let's go to a note, right? So issued shares. Wow, this is get dividends. For anyone who's new, just know like usually we write with this pencil, right? But I lost the charger for my pencil today. So I'm writing with my finger. I sincerely apologize for this atrocity that you have to bear, because right now this is very difficult for me. Even after this class, I have to take some time out and just recap on how horrible this handwriting is here. This is affecting me deeply. But we are still learning, which is the number one thing, right? So authorized shares, I think this is this is a very important note. They do not get dividends. I don't find it looking bad. All right, so Chantel, I appreciate that thing, but at the same time too, yeah, that means like if I going out and I dress up a particular way, I can't trust you. I can't trust you because nah, you can't see that this looking good. I mean, it's not looking bad. Let me try and fix the teeth. Right? So this is an important distinction to note that the shares that are issued, right, they will get dividends, but the shares that are authorized will not. So, oh, they kill me. Yes, that is we get max serious. So, the we're gonna when you're doing the preference shares, we are issuing 100,000. We are issuing dividends for 100,000 shares, but it's not because 100,000 was authorized. That is one thing I want to make the distinction. So yes, we would have, remember the business, they would have authorized 100,000 preference shares. However, when issuing the dividends, you're issuing 100,000, not because 100,000 was authorized, but because we would have had 83,000 issued from before and 17,000 issued on April 1st, 2011. Why is in the chat once we understand that distinction? Because that's a very important thing. Because we're going to use that same understanding to know how much dividends we are going to pay for the ordinary shares. So we need to understand this here. Through all the laughing, we need to make sure we understand. why we are paying for 100,000, not because 100,000 was authorized, but because 83,000 issued. We have 17,000, 83,000 issued from before, 17,000 issued on April the 1st. So it's 100,000 shares would have been issued in total. So is that because issued shares are where a hitman a word that I can't see, so they are able to make a profit from it? Just explain that word, and then after you they are sold. So the shares are not shares. You make a profit on shares when you buy the shares, not when you sell it. It's when you buy the shares. Like when I buy a share and I have the share, right? Then after, when I own the share, but when I own a share, I would have put money into the business to own the share. So when I buy a share, that is when I get dividends from that, because I own the share. Is that you can't see the share, but it's yours as an intangible asset. So now let's answer the question after all this small talk and I'll hit all it. So we know that the preference shares is at 8%. So to calculate the dividends, right, it would be 8% of 100,000. Wait, that's not. You have to know, is it on the share value or the number of shares provided to all preference shares, but it's the share value. So it will be, let's make sure. Oh, is the shares. Okay, so on the shares. So 8% on 100,000 shares. So we're gonna get $8,000 in the dividends, and this is profit. So this is like the shareholders, they making this money from. So you need to put this here. It's just a note. They make this, how much money they make from investing shares. Now we have to moving on. Provide for a dividend of 12% to all holders of ordinary shares. Right? So again, we're looking at the ordinary shares. We know that we will have issued 165,000 shares as at April 1st, 2011. And then on April 1st, we would have issued 35,000. And so therefore, it would be, this it. Yeah, this it, right? So for the total preference shares, so let's go for the total ordinary shares issued is equal to, we have 165,000 shares issued as at April the 1st, 2011, and we have to add the 35,000 that was issued, shares issued at or on, is issued on April the 1st, 2011, and so therefore we have total ordinary shares issued. How much is the total ordinary shares before we get the total ordinary shares is how much? Sorry for the question. I know Dinesh have no apologies for asking questions in here. That is what you're all here for, to ask the questions. It says 200,000 ordinary shares issued. Right, that's correct. That's correct. 200,000 issued. And so therefore, when we need to find, it is find 12% of that 200,000 shares. So we're gonna find, all right, now put this here. So we have 8% of 100. 1,000 shares. And then after for this, now the ordinary shares is 12% of 200,000 shares. Right? And that's 24,000. Why is in the chat once we understand how we got the 8,000, how we got the 24,000? Why is in the chat once we understand how we got those as the proposed dividends for the ordinary shares and the preference, the dividends for ordinary shares is 12% of the total issued 24,000. Preference shares 8% of 100,000 shares issued, and so that's 8,000. That's correct. Great. BRB gonna feed my or link the scene, Danish. We'll be here waiting on you when you touch back on the scene. We're not really waiting actually, we have reached kind of far, but we go live. So when we add this up, this is 83,500. But before we add it up, I know it's to add up, but again, a tip I always give, make sure that you would have ticked off. So you tick this off, so I handle that scene. I handle, I would have input all those necessary information. So most likely it is now for me to total. I go on total, so it's 83,000, so we must minus the appropriations. So 88,000 minus 83,500, you're going to get 4,500, right? So far, the profits after interest is 88,000. When we minus all the appropriations or all our distributions, when we distribute from our profits, when it's in brown, that means the right it, right? With the distributions, we are left with 4,500. But is that all the money we have? Is that all the money we have? Let's go back and check what you see. Right? So you all remember that yes, this was the profits from before. There's 51,000. But look at this special thing right here. You all see this here? This saving grace. See, business don't look poor. You have retained earnings. This is from before. So this is retained earnings I have from years before. You're bringing that forward now. So right now, right? Do you all know what this is called? This here is 4,500. This, right? This is called being broke. That's what this is called. This is what this is called, being broke right here. This is called being broke. All right, because you make a profit at 88,000 and you spend out money, you broke 4,500. But what comes with it as our saving grace? Retained earnings brought forward from previous years. So even though right now I am broke, right? So again, let's bring it to reality, right? So remember we had this here. We had our $31 in profits, and we would have already transferred. Let's say you transfer. Let's say it's $32 in profits, right? $32. You transfer $1 to general reserves. You transfer $20 that goes to preference shares, and this $20 preference shares dividends. It's $20 like ordinary shares dividends, and we are left with this dollar. But guess what comes saving us? Money from before. We have retained earnings from before. So even though we are left with only $1 after appropriated, we have retained earnings coming to save us. And so therefore our business is not poor. We have money in our business. Yes, we do. Yes, sir. So what we have now is $4,500, and we're gonna add 40,100. So add in 40,100, and now we have retained earnings carry forward to next year will be $44,600. Hey, So at least now what we have is this showing that I am not broke. And what came to our saving grace? Our retained earnings. So this is money from retained earnings from previous years. So this here is what we will call our superhero. This is retained earnings here. Just put our S. That's equivalent to retained earnings, okay? That S on this retained earnings chest to show that we are not broke. We actually have $44,600 in our business. And yeah, that was the appropriation account. That was the appropriation account. May, June 2012. Now we real rich. Yeah, hey, before I forget, you all remember each time you touch money, okay? So yeah, we just now covered May, June 2012. I think that is it, Mr. Springer.
Are you finishing?
Yes, that is our May, June 2012. So I'm now finishing up and ask, are there any questions? Anything people would want a clarification on? So that is the appropriation. I don't know how I came out. I'm still here.
I mean,
And I see myself in the video.
You're there. Your screen there. You want to see a screen? Oh, okay.
Right, yeah, thanks.
You're recapping. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So, let's going through the question quick, just from top. Bam. These were the theory questions. When we're doing the general reserve, we know that we have the ordinary and preference shares. These are at par value or the price when authorized. Then the share premium is the difference between the amount issued and the amount authorized and the issued. The debentures, well, this was a return on debenture, so that's how we got that. And then after for the appropriation, our profits first, that together, bam. Then we less our appropriation, so this is money that's coming out. We add back our saving grace, and we are left with return earnings carry forward to next year. And yeah, that's about it there, Mr. Springer.
Sounds good. Normally when teachers come and they're on the channel and they're teaching something, I can throw in a little word and thing and ask questions and things. But you know me, you fight it. Everything demands there, and you are also an expert at breaking down things to the smallest possible level.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, and you did well with the handwriting as well. I see it was coming in a little better. It was coming in. than the first. I might let some of the boys go through it and find back that spot and post it on my Instagram. Maybe we can see.
It is what it is. It will be what it will be.
This is an ideal video conference, and we can have a nice, something going on here.
True.
We probably have a discussion. What do you want to discuss, man? Mr. Roberts and Mr. Springer talk show. Sometime maybe in the next 2 weeks or so, I'm having something like that with some YouTube teachers as well, where we'll be giving you little tips to go through the exam, important things that you might want to take away. So since people asking some questions here, we're about to bust out. I didn't get the call on my phone, the call. The session made me kind of have hope for POA, yes, lesson Chantel. When is the next class? Hopefully next week we can do something like this as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I was supposed to come live Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, but live right now the students are packed, busy, registration period, no sleep. Right, so Michelle was just giving her the someone asked her to set off.
Set off when the debt of one company is set off because the company is acquiring the purchaser.
This is somebody has asked one to set off or something like that. Can you do a biology course to that's coming? That's coming. I want to try and do everything, because they didn't want me. So we want. It was nice. Very nice. We could do it twice next week.
All right. Hey, sound like a plan.
So, love and blessings, everybody. Don't forget to close out the chat and press like on the video. Feel free to share it with those, and it can always come back to this video. It will be here on the channel. You can always come back and take in anything that you missed. You can check all the Student Hub at the Student Hub on Instagram to find out more about the Student Hub. We actually go through registration fees now, registering students for lessons. And if you feel like this man break down everything for me, but I can understand, like I understand in POA now, and if only I had this show here, we actually have a situation on the Student Hub now where you could purchase the entire class. I mean, not much persons doing it, but you could, if you feel like you're in that, just follow up on the Student Hub on Instagram and message the admin. Love and blessings, Ali. Love and blessings.